tech person, Ryan, is not here. And so we're struggling a little bit. So we're making a recording. This is going to be going to YouTube live on my account at Prevail Over Cancer. And then we're going to be using that video and we'll be uploading it, sharing that with everybody. So, and we'll be posting that onto social media later.
Ryan's in the great state of Florida, out probably on the beach. Right. So anyway, I hope you're having fun, Ryan.
That's right.
He tried to get us up and running. I threw a big wrench into this. I bought a new phone.
No.
And so all the connectors, if you all go out and get a new phone, get the connectors before you start doing any crazy stuff.
Yeah, so it is different. So definitely. Matter of fact, I have another, yeah.
Go ahead. This is,
you won't need
not
that
using
one.
that one.
Okay. I'll just take that off too. So I don't need that. So matter of fact, I have another phone I thought about using, but that I kept, and I decided not to use it. So
before Ryan left, he got everything rigged up on my new phone and said, "You guys are good to go." And so I came in to plug it into my phone. It is now the Mini C on all the connectors on iPhones. So my Lightning is what I'm rigged up for. So anyway, just giving all your audience fair warning when you buy a new phone.
I have a connector that would.
Yeah, we're gonna blow and go. We're good to go.
But it's at home, so that won't work.
So how about a disclaimer?
Yeah, so disclaimer. So we're going to be sharing information about thyroid today. And the information that we're providing is for education purposes. We're not your medical doctor. And when you learn something, you need to evaluate that. This is a learning program. Evaluate that, discuss that with your healthcare team, and always seek help with a professional before you make changes to your health program. Also, when I talk about supplements are not intended to be used for treatment of a disease or prevention of a disease or diagnosing a disease. The federal government, the FDA, and other federal entities throughout the world have not approved dietary supplements as a treatment for such. So, but this is important information. So we're talking about thyroid today. And so, matter of fact, I have a client I was talking to yesterday that has cancer. And matter of fact, normally they'd be watching and things are actually, they're in Australia. I have clients from all over the world. And this person actually has thyroid cancer and he's been doing well. I met him indirectly through his consultant, nutrition consultant in Australia and his brother. And it's been a couple of years and he's actually doing well. And even though when I first met, he has some metastasis to several locations, but it seems to be stable, but we're wanting to push it just a little bit more to get rid of it. So we met yesterday and then I'm going to be working on a program updating that a little bit more. So, but thyroid, it's an important organ. Most of us know the thyroid is located in the neck. And oh, by the way, on my website at prevailovercancer.com, I have this handout. This will also be at hyperbaric.plus, Paul's website, and you can download that. Now, my website's only going to be there for a week, and so what would that be? So it's going to be around.
You can go to our resource page and see everyone that we've ever done.
So go to Paul's website, hyperbaric.plus, and he's got them all listed. And so my website on the Learning Center, toward the bottom of that, is going to be there till about the 21st, until next Thursday. So April the 21st, 2026, because these videos are out there forever, on that. So,
and at the end of this, we're going to play Stump the presenter.
Yes, that's right.
So
well, we'll see
send in those good questions.
Yeah, we'll see if we get questions on this. So
okay, well, I got
it. Some people, on we may not be able to. We're going to have our group here at the table ask questions, but I can't see that people are submitting questions. I don't have a computer up, so we, on that. So
we're going to wing it today.
Yeah, so we'll just wing it today. We will have a few Q&As from our group at the table, and Paul is great about asking questions too. So on that curious mind that he's got, and he's always sharing things. So enroll in what he does, and he's got a newsletter he sends out that we all need to be paying closer attention to.
Yeah, we just had one of my clients puts in the laundry 3.0.
Okay.
And he hears all my cancer clients in the chamber that are real concerned about all the chemicals. That are in our laundries. So he started carrying a device. It's $1,800 to install this device on your washer, but you have no laundry detergents, no fabric softeners,
Wow.
no hot water. It's cold water only.
Yeah.
And it infuses hydrogen into the water. And that's what is the cleaning element at that point. And my wife is like, she goes, I would have done this a whole long time ago if I'd have known it was out there.
Yeah.
So he's hearing all the conversation in here and he said, hey, Paul, for your clients, $600 off, 33% off.
Yeah. Wow.
And because when you have cancer and you're trying to eliminate all these things,
Chemicals.
it gets expensive.
That's right.
And he hears the stories and he said, hey, I want to make this available to all your cancer clients or all your clients. And so now it's $1,200 and that'll pay for itself. I was hearing some numbers in there for natural detergents, chemical-free detergents.
Right.
Wow. I mean, it pays for itself. He's using the numbers
For
of regular laundry
detergents. Right.
We'll switch that over to the expensive stuff.
Right.
And it pays off much quicker.
So we started that discussion actually about more natural clothing. And so what we wear, we do absorb chemicals through our skin. And so that's a very well-known fact. And so microplastics and other chemicals are being absorbed. So there's going to be a big shift on people trying to go more natural, like cotton and linen and silk. But we still even need to be cautious about how they're prepared and the dyes and chemicals that are used to make it, and pesticides. So really, we still want to be trying to go with more like organic. There's special certifications for clothing.
Man, I heard you all talking about, I got some shirts from a group I was involved with 10 years ago, and it was all bamboo, and it was the latest, greatest, and you need to be doing bamboo. And so they handed out all these shirts to get it going up and running. And then we talked about what it takes to process that bamboo to make linen, to make clothing out of it.
That's right.
That's not, so when I get home.
That's right. So so we got to be careful about those chemicals and think about it. So matter of fact, even foods, I'm thinking about how is that product made? What is the process?
Look at all the solvents that are used to create all these oils. I had no idea solvents were used to extract seed oil from the seed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even less expensive essential oils, they will use hexane and other chemicals to speed up that process inexpensively. There are good companies too. So, but you need to evaluate that. And if they're not forthcoming on it, then we probably ought not be using it. Same thing with the clothing. I think we'll see quite a change coming up. It's kind of like right now, the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again. People are starting to question things and read the labels. Well, now we're going to see the same kind of thing with clothing.
Since you touched on it, we got to get into our subject matter here pretty quick, but things are changing drastically. So RFK Jr. sent out a tweet yesterday about peptides. Did you see it?
Yes, I saw that.
I mean, that is a huge shift. If we can get that, I mean, the FDA shut that down, I think.
Yes.
I think that's what happened. They said this isn't safe. And so he's trying to reverse that because it's been so beneficial.
And try to get some studies behind it to support it so that it can become available without it being a black or a gray market. Although, for I was looking at, there were no cancer peptides on that list.
Okay.
And so that was a little frustrating. But so, that is a growing area. But yeah, I mean, that's created a lot of problems because a lot of practitioners love it, but it's hard to get.
They got scared away.
Yeah, and they're scared away. And then pharmacies can't carry it and do it a lot of times. So compounding pharmacies specialize in that.
But you know who's driving the boat on all this, guys? You are.
That's right. So
and if you get loud, these things will change quicker. We just can't let it happen on its own. It will never happen.
Food changes are happening because of what people are doing on social media, and then how you're responding and the changes that you're making. But you got to educate your family and your friends. And some people are slow. We're talking about that. And so some people are slower in accepting things, and sometimes you just have to make one change at a time. But that counts.
There's more Doritos on the shelf today and less of the new chips that are cooked in avocado oil. That's a very minimal shift.
Right.
But it's a shift.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
So I'm paying attention to all that. And if you leave it on the shelf, they won't carry it because they can't sell it.
That's right.
So don't put it in your cart. Just put those whole foods in.
And they're actually, the more healthy foods, they are starting to, the major food companies are actually buying out the little healthy food companies.
Yeah.
And so we still have to pay attention,
Yep.
make sure not changing that formula.
Yeah.
But it's a financial thing.
Mhm.
And so, we got to support those healthier options to help drive this change.
And it starts at that farmer's market down the street
It
from
does,
you.
definitely.
That's where it starts.
And so indirectly, I mean, it definitely plays a factor in thyroid health.
Absolutely.
And so kind of segue, into that. So thyroid is impacted by, like any part of our body, by our environment and our food, and supplements and things like that. So the thyroid gland sits, is here in the neck. And there's also what's called the parathyroid. And the parathyroid means alongside the thyroid. It's not part of the thyroid, even though they call it para. Para means alongside. So it's alongside here. But we're talking about the thyroid gland primarily today. And we think of it as making an energy chemical. And yes, it is. And so, that includes what's called T4 is what the thyroid makes. And the T4 is kind of like, the simplest thing I can think of being a guy is T4 is the same thing as gasoline in the tank in your car or your truck. And it's just sitting there. And actually, it's not extremely flammable itself. It has to have the right environment for it to work. Well, our body takes that T4. Actually, 4 means 4 molecules of iodine. Yes. So we have to have iodine for it to work right. So that 4 molecules of iodine has to be changed into T3. So we have to chop off one of those iodines off of the thyroid hormone to get to T3. And that is kind of like the spark whenever the fuel is vaporized and then ignited with a spark, or a diesel engine that explodes with pressure. And so that T3 is what we got to get to. So we're going to be talking about that. That's very important for energy. T3 is the energy chemical. T4 is kind of like gasoline sitting there. Now, most doctors are testing only for T4 because that's what they were trained on. They weren't trained about T3. An endocrinologist, a specialist of the thyroid, they know about T3 and they will test for it because there's also a prescription for T3 and they're more familiar with it. But that drug is a little bit more sensitive because it's like the fuel. And so if they give you a T3 thyroid prescription, it can easily go too high. And then you get weight loss, you get heart palpitations, increased heart rate, and side effects. So it's a challenge actually to get the right type of a dose. And actually, a lot of compound pharmacies make a combination of a T4 and T3. Actually, the first thyroid products that ever came out were a T4 and T3 combination. They came from cattle and pigs. The glands, they literally take the glands out, thyroid glands out of those animals, and would dry them, desiccate them, and then compress them into a tablet. Those are still available. And they can actually vary just a little bit from batch to batch, but the manufacturers do a pretty good job. So it's pretty even for every batch that they make. Sometimes there's actually some recalls because that's a natural animal product. Sometimes there's some shortages. Compounding pharmacies also make a T4, T3 combination. You have to go to a functional medicine doctor, and then a few endocrinologists will do that. They'll test the T3 and T4. So we think of T4 as being an energy chemical. It is. If you're low, there's typically lower energy levels. And so with that lower energy levels, that means that hair is not going to be good. So dry, brittle hair. When I meet a client, one of the things I'm looking at is actually their eyebrows. And so if their eyebrows are thinning from at least midway or maybe the outer thirds are thinning, that's a classic sign for being low in thyroid. Hard, brittle, thick nails can be another sign. And a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I love my nails because they're hard and they won't break. But that could be a sign of a low thyroid. And then another common thing is constipation. So if there's not enough energy, then the muscles and the intestines aren't going to be working right. And then, of course, there's weight gain if we're not burning enough calories. So, increasing the thyroid function may help out with maybe 10 to 20 calories per hour. Over 24 hours, that starts adding up every day. So, but it's just part of a weight management program, having the right kind of a test.
Something that you said in the chamber that really caught me is, and people need to know this, if your provider does a thyroid test and comes back with some results that they're not familiar with, this turns into a problem because if they don't know how to deal with it, they won't even go down that path because if they find this test tells them to do something and they don't know how to do it. I mean, so explain why it's so important to question those tests.
Yeah. So we were talking about thyroid in when we're in the chamber, and the question was brought up about what's called reverse T3 versus reverse T4. So there's that's a blood test. There's T3, T4, and TSH. Those are the basic tests. But there's also a reverse T4 and reverse T3. And reverse means more like mirror image. And think of it like a glove. So this is T4. This is reverse T4. They look the same, but you can't put them in that glove. I can't put this hand, won't fit into that glove. It just won't work. It looks the same. The basic T4 lab test looks the same. So without a T4, we just don't know. And then the reverse T3, same thing. That smaller molecule, that's the fuel for our body, that reverse T3. So we have to have a reverse T3 test. Most doctors won't do that test because they actually have to follow up and tell you what to do about it. And they don't know what to do about it. Actually, it's a little bit more complicated because actually it's typically more of a stress issue. So now we're talking about consultations and referrals and all types of things because there's not a medicine that helps with reverse T3. Not much really. And so therefore, sometimes doctors won't do a test. And so you have to seek a doctor that has that knowledge. And in the United States, we call those functional medicine doctors. And it's not, remember Yellow Pages?
Yeah,
there's the phone book.
Yeah. Where's that guy at?
Where'd that salesman go? But anyway, so they actually still make, I've seen some still, but anyway, it's some advertising things. But the Yellow Pages, it's not like you can go online or look in the Yellow Pages and look up functional medicine doctor.
Now, there is an association. Did anybody know the acronym for that? There's an association of functional medicine doctors that have a directory.
Well, and so now we can do searches on the internet and we can find those functional medicine practitioners. My favorite thing, although I'm from a compounding pharmacy background, is actually go to the compounding pharmacy. They know who those doctors are locally.
Yeah, there you go.
And they know who writes those prescriptions for like thyroid, what we're talking about today, and hormones. And if they're going to, they're going to do those tests. They know it. And matter of fact, it doesn't have to be a medical doctor. In a lot of states, we have nurse practitioners, which I love nurse practitioners, and PAs, medical doctors and DOs. But nurse practitioners and PAs could be very knowledgeable and with some training and things like that.
A lot of times they're the younger group, as we're seeing now. I mean, they're new to the industry and they've got a little more open mind a lot of times.
And anyway, I love nurse practitioners. I see them all the time, and some of them are friends. I love what you all do, and they have a different attitude toward patient care, being a nurse, than what a doctor does. So I love what nurse practitioners do. So we have a reverse T3, reverse T4, thyroid antibodies. And so we also have what's called Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. And that's where the body, autoimmune thyroiditis means the body's starting to attack the thyroid. The body, for some reason, thinks that thyroid's not supposed to be there. Well, the underlying cause of that is actually more of a gut issue and some nutrient deficiencies. That if nutrient deficiencies, we don't have the right nutrients, we'll talk about that in a moment. If there's not the right type of nutrients here, now the thyroid cells aren't going to work right. They're going to be even starting to become precancerous and or not shaped right, not functioning right. And the immune system goes, oh, we got to get rid of that cell. And then it kind of flips a switch and we go into this autoimmune issue. And so the autoimmune test is a TPO, thyroid peroxidase, and there's an AB antibody test on that. So if that's high, that means your body is attacking your thyroid. And actually, that can be positive and you not even know it. And matter of fact, there's a lot of people that actually the body's attacking the thyroid and their T4 and T3 are normal. Their TSH is normal. But their reverse T3 and reverse T4 is actually starting to show some signs. And they just know the person with that problem, they just know something's not right. They don't have the energy. They may be depressed. they got all these low thyroid symptoms, but the lab test says everything's normal. There's the TPO test that lets us know if there's a problem with that. And because they've got all the signs of low thyroid, but the blood test, everything's fine except for that TPO antibody. So that's typically an issue for what's called Hashimoto's, which is a low thyroid. And then there's Graves', which is a high thyroid. And so low thyroid, we think of as lower heart rate and weight gain. Graves' is a fast heart rate and weight loss. And matter of fact, I've seen people go back and forth between the two of them. That's really confusing. But
is it fair to say that all these thyroid issues, because all my clients that come in here, I mean, it's amazing how many of them are talking about they got these thyroid issues. Is that because of our environment being more and more poisoned? I mean, what is it, something that is coming up elevated, or?
Well, it's probably environmental.
Yeah.
And I really think that it's the foods, that we're not getting the right foods. Right. It's part of it. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a little brief history about thyroid. And so, being in the western part of the United States, it used to be the western part of the United States, Midwest now, Southwest, the inner part of the United States, we do not have ocean food here. And people that live on the coastal areas, the East Coast and the West Coast, those people eat more ocean food, and the ocean is a source of iodine, and or even actually the highest source of iodine is going to be seaweed and kelp. And so people that live in the Pacific Rim area and have that ocean diet and they eat a lot of seaweed, those people actually are getting 12 to 25 milligrams of iodine a day. Now, also, of course, several things. It's their food, their lifestyle, and what they're eating, and their iodine. Those people have a reduced risk of cancer. And iodine is part of that picture. But going back to the East and West Coast things in the United States, the United States, the years ago, the people in our region and in the central part of the United States actually called Easterners pencil necks, because the people that lived on the ocean, close to the ocean, they ate more ocean fish. They had enough iodine and their thyroid was small. Their neck was small. People that lived inland that were eating only red meat and grains have a tendency to have a larger thyroid. So it's the thyroid is trying to work harder. And so actually it's swelling. And we were talking about cysts earlier and nodules. And so the thyroid's trying to work, but it doesn't have the right kind of nutrients. And like any muscle, if it's working, it's going to get bigger. Well, the thyroid and the neck gets bigger, and then a lot of times a person could be overweight because of not enough iodine. So that's when the United States started out with the RDA of iodine. And so, and I'm the exact number, I'm not sure, because I normally don't go by that because I think it's too low. But the RDA of iodine is something like 150 micrograms a day, 150, something like that. And the purpose of that actually was to provide, they felt like that was the minimum amount that we need for a healthy thyroid. And actually, it probably is. And that worked pretty good. That's why they actually started iodizing salt. They were forcing iodine into the salt, became a federal program. And yes, it did help when there's not as much low thyroid. So actually, it's actually a lot of food choices. But, not all companies or all sources of iodine or salts to me are iodized. And now with people trying to be healthier, they're going with sea salt. That's not iodized. And so now we're actually going to see, because of the healthy movement, we're going to see more iodine deficiencies because they're not choosing the ones that the government has been promoting and or added, therefore not added to foods. And then even restaurants, restaurants, it's a financial thing. They're using the least expensive thing they can use, seed oils, and food and salt even. Iodized salt costs a little bit more than regular salt. So therefore, they're not going to use iodized salt at the restaurants. So foods are definitely part of it. It's a large part of it, and there can be supplements and testing. So iodine is very important, and you can test for that iodine. So make sure you have enough to make that T4. But the blood test is not very accurate. That's what's in the serum. That's not what is inside the cells. And so the most accepted test is actually a urine test for iodine. And so you can just do a urine test and just see how much iodine's in the urine. And matter of fact, if you don't have much iodine in the urine, that means you're deficient. If you have a lot of iodine in your body, you're going to urinate that excess out. So it's more like how much is being excreted out is the test.
So what happens when I swab iodine on my inner arm and it disappears in 4 hours?
I will use that as a screening.
Yeah.
And so you paint some iodine tincture, 2%. Actually, it's alcohol based, so it dries quickly. You can paint that on the skin, and you see how long it takes for it to disappear. Your body will suck it in, so you can't shower, you can't exercise and sweat it off. I mean, because you will sweat and wash it off, but it's sitting on the skin. Your body will pull that into the skin, and so it will disappear. So let's see, years ago, that's actually how they used to give iodine. And so they had like a Lugol solution, which is a high concentrated iodine. They would actually have an iodine solution, and the person would be in bed, and their spouse, partner, would actually paint iodine on the soles of the feet at night for it to be absorbed in. They put it on the soles of the feet because if you put it anywhere else, everybody can see it, and it's yellow. And so they put it on the soles of the feet because then you put your shoes on, nobody knows what you're doing. But you keep applying the iodine on the soles of the feet every night until it's there the next morning. And so if it's there for 12 hours, that means you probably have enough iodine. So that was actually one way they'd give iodine, was by painting it on the skin. So there's an iodine paint test. It's not 100% accurate because there's skin types. Matter of fact, I've actually seen some people, you put that on the skin, and actually they have oily skin, or maybe they put lotion on, and it beads up on the skin. And so, and then actually the darker the skin a person has, the more difficult it is for the
see the test
to see it if it's going in or not. And basically you just look, and if you see anything on your skin, it's still there. And I just tell my clients, if it looks like it might be there, that counts still. But the faster it's sucked into the skin, the lower your iodine level is. It's not a perfect test,
right?
But blood test isn't perfect. Urine test isn't perfect. So we don't have a great test on that. But we have to be careful. So people will use that and start taking iodine. So what's unusual is that, well, I say unusual, but it's this way with almost anything. You know, if there's not enough, you got a problem. If there's too much, you got a problem. And so not enough iodine actually increases the risk of Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, immune system attacking the thyroid, and cancer. But then if you have, there's actually human studies showing once you start giving iodine, now that kind of wakes up the thyroid, and now we have increased risk of Hashimoto's and thyroid cancer. And so there's actually certain regions of the world, and actually there's one region, there's a major conflict going on now, but they've actually studied this quite a bit in children there. They're low in iodine in that area. And when they started giving it to the children as a supplement, their thyroid cancer rates started going up. And so they're actually, we're feeding too much, for that little body size, but they were experimenting, trying to figure that out. And so we have to have the right amount of iodine. Now, it doesn't mean if you take iodine that everybody's going to get cancer. Doesn't mean everybody's going to get Hashimoto's, autoimmune thyroid problems, but we just have to evaluate that in this whole picture.
Well, I wanted to talk about thyroid today to make that picture clearer.
Yeah, so we're going to try to make it clearer.
And we hadn't got there yet. Yeah, I mean, and when people ask me about it, I'm so bumfuzzled by it. I'd say, you need to call Keith.
Yeah,
because really, I mean, how do you get all the knowledge that you're throwing out here and I'm going to apply it the proper way? Because what I don't want to do is apply something that I think,
right,
and I'm going the wrong direction.
Well, yes.
So it's really critical to have somebody,
right, you have,
follow you.
You need a functional medicine practitioner. I do help people with that. And I'm not a medical doctor, but I do help people to interpret their labs and to evaluate what supplements and foods, to help with that. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. And it just takes experience and years. So I've been helping people with thyroid since 1983. And so I just have that experience and knowledge. And then I've been concentrating on more like natural type applications. And in compounding pharmacy, that was kind of a specialty in compounding pharmacy, is making bioidentical and even teaching the doctors how to do those tests. That are interested. They have to start somewhere. We all have to start somewhere, on that. So, okay. So thyroid helps out with burning calories, metabolism. Helps with heart rate. So a person with extremely low heart rate, I would be wondering if they have a low thyroid, or if they have extremely high heart rate for no known reason. I'd be, well, okay, let's do a thyroid. Are you hyperthyroid? You may have too much. GI motility is important for bones. Too much thyroid can create not only weight loss, but also bone loss. So we want to make sure we have the right amount. It helps out with the T cell and B cell activity, the immune system. So, for a person with cancer, thyroid is very important. And then even reproduction, menstrual regularity, for fertility. In fact, if you're pregnant, the doctors are monitoring your thyroid and your TSH. And when an infant is born, they're testing thyroid immediately. And because they want to make sure, if you don't have enough thyroid, I believe it's called cretinism, in children. And so they're just not going to develop. So they're testing that to make sure for a child. Okay, so nutrients, what to do. Once again, now I have this information on hyperbarics.plus and my website for a week, on mine for a week, for his forever. And then, but nutrients, iodine is critical. It's a T3 and T4. Without enough iodine, you're not going to make enough. Yes, that T4 is going to be there, but there's not going to be enough of it. And then, something else I don't mention on this handout, you have to have enough amino acids from protein. So if you don't have enough protein, it doesn't have to be meat, but actually that's actually an amino acid that has that T4 attached, the 4 or 3 iodines attached to it. That's an amino acid from proteins. So sufficient protein is needed. So sources can include seaweed, seafood, like we mentioned earlier, but eggs and dairy, iodized salt. Excess can worsen Hashimoto's. So if we have a person that starts applying this and actually they start gaining weight, then I'm wondering, or they start having more low thyroid, I wonder if now, and we're starting to look for Hashimoto's and start doing those tests for the TPO. Assess, don't guess. Selenium, very important. It actually is required to convert that T4 to the T3. If you do not have enough, that's not going to work. But if you have too much, now the selenium becomes a pro-oxidant, starts damaging the body. It helps to enough selenium actually helps to kill cancer cells. So it's very important. And the only way we know is actually by doing a test. And so we have to do a urine or a blood test for that selenium. Brazil nuts are my favorite way to get it. I'm not a big fan of multiple vitamins because they're often not made well. Although I had a person yesterday that actually, and actually several this week, they're taking some that are actually kind of developed by a doctor, and they're good formulas. So there can be good ones, but excess selenium can be a problem. So a lot of times I'll have 100 to 200 micrograms of selenium, which is plenty of selenium. But if you do anything else on top of that, if you start eating Brazil nuts every day on top of a multiple, now you've got a problem. And so one Brazil nut has, it depends on the size of the Brazil nut, has close to the recommended daily allowance of selenium. So 1 or 2, depending on body size, Brazil nuts a day is enough selenium. So that's part of my nut mix in the afternoon. I almost always have a Brazil nut. And actually I'll do 2. If I didn't have that yesterday, I will do 2 today to make sure I'm getting enough. But also tuna and halibut, sunflower seeds has a little bit, and eggs and mushrooms. Also, we're going to have some selenium. It depends on where those foods come from if the soil had the selenium in it. So, matter of fact, there are regions, in the world where there's no iodine in the soil. And I like to watch survival shows and homesteading shows. And in Alaska, they actually will take the seaweed and put that in the dirt so their vegetables and fruit have more iodine in it. And it's actually, and it decomposes, and it's a fertilizer type of thing, but it's got all kinds of, not just iodine, but all kinds of minerals, including selenium and iodine in that. Zinc required. Matter of fact, zinc is another one that I do kind of a different type of a taste. You're familiar with this, the taste test. So we'll take a zinc solution and you swish the zinc solution for 10 seconds and swallow it. And if it tastes like water, you're low in zinc. Your body actually absorbed that zinc and went past your taste buds so quickly you didn't even notice the sour bitterness. About 3/4 of the population are deficient in zinc.
We did the test in here. Five of our clients did the test from Flourish, and not.
Okay, if a person is kind of like low normal, I'm suspecting they have it's worse than just low normal. But we also look at zinc and copper levels, and so those actually combine. We have to have both of them, but they compete with each other. And if copper is high, that means that their zinc is going to be lower. And so I will do a blood or a blood zinc and copper and a urine zinc and copper levels. So zinc is required for the chemical TSH. That's another blood test that the doctors will do. TSH comes from here below the brain, and it actually TSH stands for thyroid stimulating. So TSH stimulator hormone, TSH, tells the thyroid to work. So it's an inverse number. The higher that number, the lower your thyroid levels are typically. And so it's more like a low TSH, and the body's kind of saying, well, we could use a little bit of thyroid. A large or high TSH, the body's going, we need more. We need more. It's yelling, saying we need more thyroid. So it's an inverse number. So a high number is bad. A low number, it means you may have too much. So we have to have that balance. And the range in the United States goes from like 1 point something, 4 or 5, but anything above, if you're pregnant, the doctors start giving you thyroid if you're above a 2.5. And so my view is that the TSH, if you're above a 2.5, you're actually starting to go into low thyroid. And so why would we want to just be optimal if we're pregnant? I think everybody should be a 2.5 or a little bit or below. So don't accept a 3 because it's in the normal range on that. So kind of push for that. So zinc, actually iodine, selenium, and zinc are critical for to make the thyroid hormones. Zinc sources include oysters and beef and pumpkin seeds and chickpeas, hemp heart seeds, and then iron. And most people don't know this. Most doctors don't even know this, but iron storage number called ferritin is required to make thyroid hormone and convert that T4 to T3. So I'm looking at ferritin levels. Anything below a 50 is a problem. And actually, the normal range for ferritin goes from 10 to 150. But anything below 50 is a risk factor for restless leg syndrome, nerve damage, and thyroid problems. So ferritin is required. Magnesium is required. We've talked about magnesium before. It helps with the in the brain. It's going to be in the thyroid. It reduces inflammation. So we're talking about inflammation in the chamber also. So inflammation is a factor that can damage any part of our body, including the thyroid. Vitamin D3 helps cells to be normal. Any cell that doesn't have vitamin D3 attached to it is not going to be optimal, no matter what cell that is. Almost every cell has a vitamin D3 receptor. So we have to have sufficient enough vitamin D3. Myo-inositol is a chemical that actually our body makes, and it regulates thyroid and hormones. And it actually also is a calming chemical. It's a relaxing chemical. It's also available as a supplement. And so sources of that include beans, whole grains, citrus seeds. But to have this calming effect and supporting thyroid, you have to go with a supplement, a very high dose with that. And then vitamin A is also required for this process to work right, to make the thyroid and convert it to T3. And then vitamin B12 helps with folate absorption. And so a person that's low in B12, that's one of those things we have to evaluate. Why are they low? And so they may not be absorbing things, but that could be another fatigue issue if you're low in B12. So now, matter of fact, those things, iodine, selenium, zinc, iron, magnesium, vitamin D3, myo-inositol, vitamin A, and B12 are things that I will give for autoimmune thyroiditis, Hashimoto's. And if we're actually doing everything right, most of the time we see some benefits. We actually see those numbers get better. But it's a challenge because we still actually got the gut involved. The immune system is still haywire for some reason. All these things help this process to be more normal. Once again, the gut, if it thinks something's going on, it's going to be damaging that. Okay, so to help reduce the risk of the Hashimoto's, all of those things that we talked about just a second ago. Caution with iodine. So excess iodine can contribute to more problems if you're getting too much, or even just starting to take it. All of a sudden now the thyroid's starting to wake up. Now the body goes, oh, something's not right, and can start attacking it. So we have to evaluate that. But then gut health is extremely important. So absorption of all those things we've been talking about, very important, but enough fiber and probiotic support, making it fermented foods, help with that to work right. Let's see, next section on this handout, we already talked about the labs and thyroid. I'm going to mention just a little bit about thyroid cancer. So it's not a common one, but I do have several clients with thyroid cancer. And so we have the blood test of a thyroid globulin. That is usually where they usually start catching that. They're trying to figure out why is the thyroid number is not right. And so a TG, thyroid globulin or thyroid globulin antibodies, TGAB, are some signs. If it's metastasized to other parts of the organ, if there's enough cells, then the CEA cancer marker starts going up. So, but factors that can increase the risk of thyroid cancer includes radiation exposure. So we want to minimize radiation to this area. So matter of fact, when I go to the dentist, I don't normally get an x-ray. I refuse the x-ray because I just don't want that. My mother actually had a lot of dental work done and braces in her 60s and a lot of x-rays. She ended up with brain cancer. So I'm just not a fan of x-rays if you don't need it. Have to have iodine balance. Both deficiency and excess increases the risk of cancer. Inflammation, chronic inflammation. So, is a factor. So we were talking about inflammation earlier. Whatever that source is, that problem, those inflammation chemicals increase the risk of damage to the cells, and those cells flip over into a cancer cell, and then they start growing. Estrogen dominance, another thing we talked about in the chamber. So too much estrogen without enough calming progesterone sets up a greater risk of thyroid cancer. Matter of fact, thyroid cancer is 3 to 4 times more common in women than they are men because of the excess estrogen. Environmental toxins, the plastics, the BPAs, the phthalates, the PCBs, the nitrates, organochlorine pesticides, all disrupt the thyroid function and attach to those hormone receptors and create problems. So filtering your water, choosing organic whenever possible, being careful about the plastic linings and cans, drinking from plastic, all of those are major issues. And then a family history. There can be a little bit of a genetic issue for both thyroid, and cancer concerns. It doesn't mean you're going to get it because it's actually what you've done in your lifestyle and in your food that allows those genetics to express. So I do know people that, actually they had a child with thyroid cancer, but mom and dad didn't have it, and the other way around. So the mother had prostate cancer, but the children don't. So, but it's actually our lifestyle that could allow some of those inherited genetic tendencies.
Hey, Keith, why don't we do something different this week?
Okay, what?
Well, because I see you trying to rush through this because
I'm going fast.
Still, well, that, and we're not taking questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this recording out on all my clients, and I'm going to ask them off what we've got here. Send us some questions. I'd invite your your followers
That's right.
do the same thing.
Yes, right.
Send you some questions and let's revisit that because you're stirring a lot of things up that I want to ask
about. Right. And we still got a lot more.
Yeah, we do. So why don't let's encourage our followers to send questions in. You can even review them if there's some there that you need to dig into a little bit. You'll give you time to do that. But we're getting pushed up to the hour. We're only halfway through this, probably because I spent so much time earlier with getting you off topic.
We're talking about all kinds of things.
But I would love to do that. And I'm going to have some conversations in the chamber because I have a lot of my clients that are just totally confused on thyroid. They don't really know where to start. And I'm going to ask for some questions and ask them to watch this, review this online. And let's come back and revisit it with questions.
We got plenty to work with. Matter of fact, when I was preparing this, actually, it was originally 7 pages long.
Well, I get it. I see. I mean, again, the reason I asked to cover this topic is because of how much conversation I hear in there. And just like the testing you're talking about, it's not 100%. I mean, there's 3 different ways that we need to test and then combine all those together.
Right.
Some that we can self-test and monitor as we go forward. I'm looking at, hey, the next time I do a blood test, I'm also going to do this test, and I'm going to see how they line up. And then as I change, as I increase or decrease, I'm going to pay attention to that. So I think that would be a great place to start. And let's do that. Let's share with our followers what we want to do to go forward. Ryan will be here next week. Ryan, if you're watching, we sure
he probably is. Well, he's going to be watching it in a way.
Yeah. But we're going to post this on our website, and I'll encourage people if they want to learn a little bit about thyroid. I want them to tune in next.
That's right. Yeah. So we will do that again next week, and we'll go. We'll do a brief summary, and then we'll go into the parts that we haven't covered and answer questions.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I hate to have this topic and not answer questions.
Right. Exactly.
So let's come back and do that.
Next week we'll have it. We'll have Ryan here, and he'll help us have it live.
Right.
And so I'll repost this on my website again.
Right. Sounds great. Well, hey, Keith, this is your clientele. We're only on your channel, right, so you're driving the boat.
We're on YouTube, so thank you for tuning in. We're going to share this on social media and with email lists for both of us. And thank you for tuning in. Keith with Prevail Over Cancer and Paul with Hyperbaric Stop Plus.
Thank you all for listening in. We'll see you next week. Right. Have your questions ready.
Thank you.
You always like to close with a fist bump. There we go. Thank you, sir.
We got a good group coming in. You move this out of the way?
No, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. I might just drag it up this way a little bit. Get around pretty good.
I'll get your microphone.
Oh, I'll let you have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah. Inexpensive urine test can you get, Keith?
What now?
Inexpensive urine test to do all that.
Actually, it's a combination. Try to turn this off.